What we've got here is failure to communicate.
Hey, I'm UFC President Dana White, and you're in the ring with Callum McGregor.
To me, the Lions are the #1 rankings out there. Those guys are the ones who really do their homework, you know what I mean?
But this fight, I'm telling you, it's a flip of a coin.
We did not tap.
Let's go! Let's go! Here we go, UFC, Rodriguez, Lemos, the fight that we weren't sure if it was going to happen or not. A couple fights that we were unsure, and we were actually ready to go a couple days earlier. I know you guys are like, yeah, bullshit. But we were ready to go a couple days earlier, decided to hold off until we knew exactly what the card was going to be. And it's okay with this card to come in with some quick picks and more, maybe some prop plays. Because this is a dicey-ass card. Really, you can't feel bad how this card ends for yourself. You sort of pick your sides on some things and call it a day. But we'll just look back at a couple things in the last card if you wanted to sort of touch on a couple things. But we know that death taxes Chookagian by decision, death taxes Jacoby by decision, and death taxes Arlovsky by decision are no longer a thing anymore. Dustin Jacoby loses what is a bullshit judging decision. I know we're later in the week. Everybody's already diced this up. But, man, I've watched that back a bunch of times just to make sure I'm not completely off my rocker. There's been a bunch of fights that we can say robbery, and everybody's talking all this shit because they're betting on one side or the other, and they have green-colored glasses. But, man, that was a bad beat. I know regardless, from a good betting angle, you were already on the Roundtree side of things. And regardless of how it played out and whatever, if you have a winning ticket in your hands, the fight is potentially that close because we talked about the power of Roundtree, potentially, bloodying up the face. We talked about these things where he's going to actually maybe do a little bit more damage. And, Jacoby by decision did not do it, but you had a winning ticket in your hands. Talk about that, sir.
Yeah, so I'll be the first to admit, although I won that bet, I definitely had Jacoby winning. I don't scream robbery as much as everybody else does because I think whenever it comes to MMA judging, we score things very differently, and the judges, depending on the day, don't necessarily know how they score it. I would definitely say Roundtree landed the more powerful shots, and Jacoby point fighted. So in theory, like I did score the fight 29-28 for Jacoby. I thought he won the first 2 rounds, and I thought Roundtree easily took the third. The only argument I think would be for the first round, but you notice he's outstruck by about 20 points, and that's where things get a little bit dicey, right? Like it really depends when Jacoby would come in, Roundtree would have his feet planted and he'd throw big shots. But as you said, he missed a lot of those shots. So yeah. I feel like we kind of got, as you mentioned, Chookagian, where Roundtree was like, every single time he threw and those punches were winging. It's hard to see what the judges see from outside of the cage. So,
and when Jacoby is a face that bleeds, that plays into it too. When you have people loud at ringside making responses to it, that plays at it too. And we got to start looking into that. And some of my angles are just based solely on this idea. And I'm going to sort of mess around on this card to see if it plays out because we're in the Apex. Bisbing's probably commentating. We got to find out the Bisbing angle and see who he's favored in his fights. That way we know if he's going to sway some judging. Sort of joking, but I don't know, not really. I'd love to know what the acoustics are like in the Apex for judges to hear what Bisbing has to say.
On that note, I think, okay, so now there's a weird narrative, right, where people talk about judges all the time. I think we need to get fighters as judges, and we need to get people like John Anik as commentators, because the color commentators always do a real good job. But whenever it comes down to the fighters, they see specific angles I think that they would use inside of the cage and favorite those things. I don't think they necessarily favorite a person, but Bisbing as somebody who always threw kind of like wild shots and like was really aggressive in your face would favor somebody like Roundtree. So I think they paint their own narrative based off their own fighting style. Where like, for DC, he'll be wrestling and DC will be like, oh, this guy's kicking his ass. I'm like, dude, this dude's laying on top of him doing nothing. Like, you were a wrestler for 30 years, so you're going to favor this. So.
Yeah, actually, I made a post about this a while back. Laura Senko would be a great addition. I think they're actually bringing in, who are they bringing in? Having a little bit of a moment, a senior moment. But they're bringing in this weekend Juliana Pena.
Yeah, exactly.
So she's going to be coming in and doing some commentary. She's been all right, but Laura Senko's leaps and bounds way better. But the one thing I said to Laura Senko, and she had actually responded, was men tend to project their ego a lot more. And you see that in fight by fight. You'll see, like, if like you're saying, like if DC wants to see the wrestling approach, and he's actually gotten better at this. You'll see him sort of, favor the wrestling approach, or you see Bisping favor a big strike or whatever the fuck it is. But she tends to leave that out of it, and she actually breaks it down on a good level, has some comedic value to it too, and it keeps them all in line. So I think they need to get her on the broadcast. I think they should have put her on the broadcast rather than Pena, but who am I? I've heard Pena in regional scene stuff, but he's okay. But either way, I think we should move into the UFC fight card and break some things down. Let's go over the main event first. The main event that almost didn't happen. We have Marina Rodriguez against Amanda Lemos. Marina Rodriguez 16-1-2 against Amanda Lemos 12-2-1. And a lot of people are going to talk about this. This is a story of maybe volume versus bigger shots. This is a story of a little bit more of a lot more of a ground game on Lemos' side, and a little bit more of a top-heavy ground game if she needs to impose that, maybe a little bit more power. But man, with this fight, I could see this being a fight that people are going to scream robbery next week. I could see this potentially, and I get the idea of people are saying Lemos gasses, but what if she makes it five rounds? If she makes it 5 rounds and her and Rodriguez go back and forth tit for tat, Rodriguez likely ends up having more volume, but maybe has more damage on her face and is maybe taking some of the bigger cinematic shots, right? With a Bisping or a Juliana Pena going, whoa, and the crowd going, oh, and I know I'm feeding right into the narrative we were just talking about, but it's at the Apex. That was just last weekend. And it's a potential, man. So I think if you're on either side of this fight right now, I don't hate you for it. Right now, the current line is Amanda Lemos coming in at plus 175. How does the distraction with getting into the country affect her weight cut, and how does that play out? We'll see. Maybe you want to wait to the scales. Against the minus 210, Marina Rodriguez, who does have the better striking acumen, who's going to come in and throw higher volume and land bigger shots, but does she get bloody in the process? Like I said, I don't know. I don't really have a crazy hot take other than the fact that I think that Rodriguez is aside. I think that she probably wins by decision and or late finish. But I don't hate you picking Amanda Lemos on this. I think it's plus 135 for Rodriguez by decision. I sort of like that, but at the same time, this is probably going to be a stay off for me, man. There's going to be a lot of that this week. I picked a couple spots I like where I want to see if it plays out. It's some interesting spots, but this one may be one I just stay away from. What's your take on this one? Amanda Lemos, Marina Rodriguez. Take it away.
Yeah. So I think a lot of things you're going to hear from a lot of people whenever it comes to Lemos is the cardio. And you're going to hear it from me too. The thing with Amanda Lemos is she's really good early, but that cardio falls off a cliff and it happens fast. I think Marina Rodriguez, she reminds me a lot of Kaylin Jakagian with a little bit more power, where she's able to point fight, but she's also goes for the finish when the time comes. She literally knocked out Amanda Ribas twice in that fight. So I think that her striking is just going to be on point. I think Lemos is probably live for a sub early on. That line's sitting at plus 1,000. That'd be just like a sprinkle if you want a small bet. Just because I don't think she's going to try and stand with Rodriguez. I think Rodriguez, being the bigger, better striker, will just be able to keep her at bay. Lemos will probably throw wild shots and try and shoot and take this fight to the ground, tie her out. And I'd assume you see a late TKO from Rodriguez. So, and that's in at plus 200 right now. I think the best play on this fight is the under 4.5, which is sitting at minus 135 though. Because I think
you know what, that's not bad.
Yeah, I think if you're gonna get a Lemos finish early, because I said she's pressure and she's strong, and for that first 7.5 minutes, Rodriguez is gonna be sweating it. And at minus 235 for Rodriguez, you don't want to be holding that ticket if she's on her back a minute in the fight. So,
and I mean, I think that's why we're good tit for tat, because I'm presenting the what ifs. What if it does go to decision? Because some main events you don't think are going to go. And then, if it does, is it going to be sketchy? What if? And then you're presenting, the likelihoods, the breakdowns. And on this one, I think we hit all sort of spots and worries. And I think that for me, I may stay off it, but I do like your shot on the under 4.5, because I think that one hits at a high percentage. So next fight on the card, and we'll pause it there. I'll be back in a sec.
Good to go.
Okay, perfect. So next fight on the card, we have Neil Magny, 26-9-0 against Daniel D-Rod Rodriguez, 17-2-0. Currently the fight odds, we have Rodriguez coming in at near even on most books, and we have minus 120 for Neil Magny, the little bit more seasoned vet. in the UFC cage. I'm gonna let you take this one away and lead off with this one, man. What do you think?
Yeah, so I gotta start with Neil Magny on this one. I see a lot of love coming in for Daniel Rodriguez, but after his last performance, man, like I have a real hard time backing him in this spot. Neil Magny recently has been able to show a stronger grappling skill set than he showed in his past levels of his career, or early on his career, sorry. And I think he's gonna do the same thing in this fight. I think he knows that Rodriguez probably has a relatively easily striking advantage. But I think Magny, being the bigger guy, is just going to be able to kind of ground him, hold him there, and be able to take advantage of it and ride it out to a decision. So I like Neil Magny. I like Neil Magny by decision at plus 130. But the money line on Magny is only minus 120, so there's not too much value searching for that.
Yeah, I think you're on the right side of it. For me, coming into this fight, that's where I was. Then I started looking at potentially D-Rod for a couple reasons. Just on the feet, the way he beat Jingliang Li, even though I don't think he beat him. The way that he can throw at least a decent amount of volume. He throws some good power as well too. I don't know, man. Maybe I'm just gun shy from last week. I think that I just don't know how this plays out in the judges' eyes. I don't think that Magny's going to get this on the ground and have accrue any control time, even on the cage for too long. So I think this plays out on the feet, and I don't know, man. I've gone back and forth. I think Magny by decision is a smart play. But when I go back and forth like that on the week, it's just going to end up being a stay off for me. The thing with D-Rod is, although his last fight against Jingliang Li, which was supposed to be against Kevin Holland, I think that was put together on short notice. Not like exactly short notice, but like really close to the pay-per-view. But I'm pretty sure. Then before that, he came in on short notice on his last fight before his little bit of a layoff. So this is his first time set up for a fight, proper fight camp. That is a little bit of a thing I'm wondering about. I don't know if he's going to come in and look a little bit sharper than he did in his last fight, because he did look a little bit flat to me. There wasn't as much big pop in his punches the way you normally would see, or at least build up in some of his shots. So for me, this is going to be a stay off, man. I was on both sides of this. I could see it playing out both ways. Magny, if he comes out in rare form, Magny should win this by decision and or late finish. That's a Magny deal. But so I'm sort of with you on your decision on it, but I don't really have a take on it because I've been on both sides of it.
Yeah, like you would also take the fight to be won by unanimous decision, which is sitting at minus 115. Like, as I said, it's either going to be Rodriguez will probably be able to box him up on the feet and win pretty clearly, or Magny is going to be able to hold him down for 3 rounds. So I think there's value on this fight. I think fight goes the distance minus 190. I think there's value there. Rodriguez hasn't had that many finishes at the UFC level, so I don't think you have to worry about too much of that. And I don't think Neil Magny's finishing anybody this late in his career, especially somebody with the experience of Daniel Rodriguez, only having 2 career losses coming by decision.
I'm with you on that. I think we're both sort of see the fight similarly. I mean, like I said, I think Magny could be the side, but yeah, I'll just gun shy this week, man. Gun shy. Next fight on the card, but then you'll see me not be gun shy in this one. It's crazy. On this actual fight, I'm actually have a little bit of a play. On a Chase Sherman, Josh Parisian fight, I actually have a little bit of a play. So Josh Parisian coming in at 15-5-0 against Chase Sherman at 16-10-0. It's a little bit of a momentum thing. It's a little bit of what we've seen out of Chase Sherman since he's come back into the UFC. Parisian, if this stands on the feet, I think Chase Sherman's boxing is way better. I think he's going to land more volume and potentially put him out late in the fight. I just think that's the play. Parisian's going to come in with some little bit wild shit and try to land bigger shots and really be picked apart in the boxing realm. I just see that's how it will play out. Either a Sherman decision that if it plays out that way and or late finish. Now then we look at, does Sherman get taken down? Do I want to play off the fact that he looked good against Romanov? He looked like, was he able to get back to his feet in that first round before he got submitted? And a lot of people were talking about that too, because he did look a little bit decent. I thought he would have been taken down right away by Romanov, submitted like a little bitch right away within the first like 15 seconds and showed no fight at all. The fact that he showed even a little bit of fight at all, it goes a little bit of a ways. And I think that if he can keep this on the feet, like I said, I think Parisian loses this fight. And I just have no faith in Parisian. He's just not at this level. He's a regional king, but not even a UFC gatekeeper at this point. So This is almost a fight for gatekeeper status. I think Chase Sherman, I think, wins this one. I'm actually like at plus 240. It's a little bit of a fade of Parisian, a little bit of momentum side of Sherman. Plus 240. It's third round or decision. Chase Sherman. So it's not a big play. It's a little sprinkle, but I think I may be looking for action in that. It's a little bit of a fade of Parisian. It's a spot I feel a bit more comfortable with because I think that Sherman's stand-up is way better. You're probably going to say it's a dumpster fire and stay away, but I will pass this off to you. What's your take?
I was gonna say friends don't let other friends bet on Chase Sherman fights, but yeah, I don't know, man. You summed it up for what it is. Like Chase Sherman should win this fight, but in like retrospect to Chase Sherman is he kind of lets fights skip away from him. He's inconsistent, doesn't always show up, and Josh Parisian is just fat as fuck. And if he can get the fight to the ground, he's gonna lay on top of you and probably get like a TKO from a crucifix because it's kind of what he does. I don't hate the play, man. It'd be different if there's a big favorite. Like, I think this fight probably doesn't go the distance. But once again, Josh Parisian's fat. So if he can stay in there, he may just tire out. Might get really greasy. But yeah, I'll side with you, man. I think Chase Sherman wins. And I think hopefully Parisian tires out and he gets a late TKO as you're looking for. It's just, I can't trust either one of these guys with $1 of my money.
Oh, 100%. I mean, if you look at in 5 fights, he's lost 4, right?
Yeah.
I'm not looking to the Chase Sherman that was pre-cut, though I'm looking at the one that's come back. I know the other fights aren't that long ago as well, too, but I don't know, man. He looked in better shape. And this is like, he looked in pretty good shape even coming in against Romanov, right?
Yeah.
And he's at least as far as what we know, he's not juicing anything, right? Nothing that he's getting caught for. So whatever it is, he's figured out that chemistry of that. So if he's feeling like, I'm just going to go on that momentum, like I said, a little bit of momentum. I think he had a decent showing in the Romanov fight. I think we knew what that was. That was a hit, right? They set him up for a hit to get a contract. Showed a decent little bit of standing, like I said. Goes in against, Jared Bandera is not much to talk about, but goes in and just does what he does. And I think a lot of us thought that was going to play out that way. I didn't think Bandera was going to show any fight IQ and try to take Sherman down, and Sherman he's way better on the feet. Like, he does have good boxing. So I think that is going to be the play for me. It's a small sprinkle, so if it goes the other way, I'm good. Next fight on the card, and I know you're going to know where I go on this one because this really is the accountant of the family. But I will let you take this one away. We have Nate Maness 14-2-0 against Tagir Ulanbekov 13-2-0. I have an opinion. The line currently is sitting, and I think it's going to maybe get a little bit wider. We have Ulanbekov coming in minus 180. No, it's not too bad against the plus 150 Maness. Take it away.
So whenever it comes to Tagir, he comes from the Khabib camp, and I just feel like he's one of these guys that has kind of that momentum coming from the camp, but without the actual skill set. I bet against him whenever it came to Tim Elliott, and I thought Tim Elliott completely handled him in that fight. Whenever it came to Alan Nascimento, although he won a split decision, I thought he clearly lost that fight as well. And I just don't really feel like he has the skill set that he's been given credit with. Whenever it comes to Nate Maness is a good grappler, a good striker, and the type of guy that's going to come out and fight for your money. And if you're giving me plus 200 on him against a guy like Tagir who's just going to try and grapple and not really show much offense, I think you can't not bet Nate. Like, he's the type of guy, like, he gets back up on his feet, he's throwing punches, like, he's constantly in the fight. And I think at the end of the day, he's just going to outvalue Tagir.
Yeah, I'm fully with you on that, my friend. And I think you saw that coming because, I make the joke about a couple people in the family, and I say the family, I mean from that Dagestani roots and background. But you just imagine, in the hills of Dagestan, and they're all getting ready to play violent basketball that they play. Who do you think gets picked last?
Yeah, exactly.
Tagir Ulanbekov, right? And I'm sorry, like, he really is the accountant cousin who got pulled into the the gym class first, and then into wrestling class, and then into the mountains to try to wrestle bears. He got pulled into those things, and really what he does is he probably carries the water when he's younger, and he wants to be like his cousins. Man, he's just not there. And why I say he's not there is he doesn't commit to the fundamentals of what they do. They control, they get position and control, and they fight for that first, and then they start to work. And they don't let go of that control once they have that top position. They're going to win minutes of control time. And Tagir doesn't win minutes of control time. And people will argue with me and say, well, he had 12 minutes against Nascimento because Nascimento was ready to run submissions off of his back and was okay with that, right? So that's not control time. That was somebody willing to do that. And if you ever want to see Khabib most disappointed, watch him in Tagir's corner. Watch him when he gets swept. Watch him when he does a misstep. He's not happy and he's yelling and you see it. And it's just like, he's just not one of them. And this line, I hope gets wider. I hope it goes over -200 for Ulanbekov, because what does Nate Maness bring? He brings, like you said, hellfire. He's a dog that fights for your money. He's a guy that will throw power shots and land and potentially put some blood on your face and get some sway from the crowd. And where are we? In the apex, right? And if we have a guy like Bisping who's commentating, I'm going through all of this. If we have a guy like Bisping who's commentating, or whoever it is that's commentating, and they want to see bigger shots versus the wrestling, how is this going to look? Because I know that Maness is a good wrestler, but he's 77% takedown defense. If he keeps Ulanbekov off of him and he lands a couple big shots each round, how's it play? Because if Khalil Roundtree can fucking beat Jacoby with what he did, then Nate Maness is the dog of the week. That's my opinion. I think Ulanbekov is not at the level. I think he is a solid wrestler on a certain level, but he's not a Dagestani control, mountain goat wrestling, bear fighting. He's not that guy. He's just not. So I'm going to go with Nate Maness, Kentucky bred, dog for your money. Let's go. Next fight on the card we have, and then it just sort of drops off with Mark Madsen, 12-0-0 against Grant Dawson, 18-1-1. We have a fight where we have a guy we don't know if he is the real deal at this point in Grant Dawson, because he has shown some follies in his career. He looked good in his last fight. Is he going to really step up and be that Grant Dawson? Or do we have this guy who feels like almost a guy you just bet on? It's almost like an auto bet. Madsen just sort of has enough striking and then that wrestling acumen to fall back on to just win decisions. Is he that guy that sort of becomes that auto bet? I feel like he might be. And that's why him being the dog this week, it makes me feel, I don't know, man. I'm back and forth on this one because I've been on the other side of Madsen, and being on the other side of Madsen hasn't really worked for me. And then if I bet Madsen, or we make him a preferred pick, and Grant Dawson comes out and shows enough wrestling to keep it on the feet and then throw fucking hell at him. I mean, I don't know, man. For me, I've gone back and forth on this one and sort of played it out in my mind. I wouldn't hate people saying Madsen by decision, or Grant Dawson to finish it inside the distance. Currently, the line is sitting at, we have Dawson coming in at -210. Yeah, if it gets wider, then there's value on Madsen even more and more at +180 dog. But I'm just going to stay away from it. What's your take on this one?
Yeah, this is another one, man. Like, as you said, this card's a little greasy. And it's one of these ones where it's either going to be, like I said a couple weeks ago, where it's going to be dog city and like one dog won, or I'm going to be right, and there's going to be dogs that are coming through. But if you're going to be +200 on a fight where I think both guys are going to wrestle, I'm going to take the Olympic champion. And that's why I got to take Mark Madsen in this fight. I just feel like this is going to be greasy. I feel like both guys are going to want to take this fight to the ground. And I've seen Grant Dawson's cardio fall off. And I have a little bit with Mark Madsen as well. But at the end of the day, man, like, he's going to come and push that pressure. And one thing we haven't seen a lot of is Grant Dawson on his back. And that's where I get a little skeptical in this fight, because he's generally the one pushing the pressure. But if Mark Madsen can get him there, man, this is going to turn into a whole other fight. And we know if Mark Madsen gets him there, he's going to be able to keep him there. It's what the guy's done his whole life. So I'll take the +85 on Madsen. I'll take the +250 on decision. I don't.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of value.
There's just so much. It's a fight where you know it's going to be greasy. Nobody should be a -215. I don't know what line you have on DraftKings right now. It's -215. I don't think anybody should be that big of a favorite in this fight. This fight to me is a pick'em. So I'll take the +185 all day.
Okay, I am with it. Next fight on the card, we have Derek Minner coming in at 26-13-0 against Shaylin Nurembekak. I think that's how you say it, or Nurembekak. I don't know, man. I've heard so many different versions on how to finish this. The Wolverine, coming in as 37-10-0, and he's like 17 years old. His record's that of a journeyman and somewhere in Montreal. And the reality of the fact is he's fought. We know that his strength of schedule isn't quite where it needs to be, but we have the plus 170 Derek Minner coming in as a dog coming in against the minus 205 favorite of the Shailin, the Wolverine. What's your take on this one? You're leading this one off. Take it away.
This fight's dicey, man. Like, Charlene should be able to come in here and win this fight. And I don't know if I'm just mad against him because I don't know if everybody remembers that, you know, Charlene was like a plus 300, plus 250 dog against TJ Brown. And we all had TJ Brown. And, you know, as Uncle Weezy would say, you fade people with poor haircuts. I think that's the fight where that saying kind of came up from. Because TJ Brown just shit the bed in that fight. And the thing with Derek Minner is, if Derek Minner is going to win this fight, it's going to be by submission because he's not going to last. Derek Minner's cardio falls off like crazy. So I think at the end of the day, the best way to play this fight is violence. Charlane's not really known for his finishing ability, but in retrospect, like Derek Minner isn't going to be there past 7.5 minutes at all. So I like Charlene in the spot, but it's kind of a no bet for me. I may bet the first round submission for Derek Minner. It just seems like a real sketchy fight. And with the favorite being a minus 205 is just way too dicey for me.
Yeah, it's a difficult one, man. I remember, watching the Ryan Hall fight for Minner. He had moments in that for him, he was listening to Krause. It looked like he might be able to manage himself. And then it just it does just happen. You just see it happen. He sort of falls off the cliff with the actual cardio and loses position. And I don't know, man. I think for me, it really is a stay off. I like your angle on it. I don't hate people if they want to take a shot on a dog, but I mean, I don't know if this is the spot to take a shot on a dog. This fight just screams. I don't know. Minner likely could get finished late in the fight. But I don't know, man. I'm just going to stay away from this one. On the feet, I don't think he lasts very long against Shailin. I think that with the kicks, he'll be able to keep him at bay and potentially even catch him with something. But can he actually get him into the ground and do something early? I don't know. But I will stay off of it. When they're dry, who knows? But I guess we'll find out where the Wolverine is at, if he is at at least a little bit of a level. Because Minner will push it, we'll throw it at him early, and we'll find out how that plays out. But I will not be going anywhere near it. Okay, next fight on the card, we have Miranda Maverick 10-4-0 against Shanna Young 8-4-0. This line is getting a little bit ridiculous at this point, and it sort of is a thing that happens with Maverick lines at this point, because she is a very talented fighter and very well-rounded with a very well-rounded skill set. I think we're sitting now currently at minus 530, but I've seen it even up to minus 700 at one point. I guess I don't know if it's been bet down a little bit, but Miranda Maverick is the favorite. I don't really know if there's any value to find it in here, but I think that she has Shanna Young beat pretty much everywhere. Shanna Young at the plus 380 dog, and I still don't see any value there really. I think Maverick's gonna be able to mix it up enough on the feet. If she feels that she's not winning on the feet, I think she has the wrestling acumen and the fight IQ to take it down to the ground if she needs to. I just think Maverick's the side in this, but I just don't know if she's that wide of a favorite. I just can't see it being that wide. And the reality of the fact is I don't see any value really in any of the props anyways. So what's decision right now, Maverick?
Minus 200.
Yeah, there's just not much to talk about in this fight. There's no real value in it. I wouldn't even parlay it, because what if it breaks up your parlay? You should stay away from it altogether. But unless you have a little gem in there somewhere.
Actually, no, I let you. Miranda Maverick by decision is plus 130.
That's okay. That's not too bad. I was surprised, actually. I thought it would have been maybe minus 105 or something like that.
It's also because the submission is plus 130. Because remember, she lost that exhibition fight to Maverick already by submission. So the books are kind of lining it evenly, being like, I don't know, man. Flip a coin. She's going to win this fight. It's just which path is it going to be? So, this is one of these fights where the only way I'm going to say is if you actually do choose to parlay this fight, make 2 separate parlays, throw the decision in there, and throw the submission in there, because you're putting plus money on a ticket you're taking a minus 645 favorite. At least that's line on DraftKings right now. which is juiced higher than the line you have, which is already obscene. But and you're putting plus money on it. So just remember when you do these parlay tickets, right? A $10 bet can go a long way. And if you throw a plus 130 in there,
I'm gonna stop you right here though, because you told me friends don't let friends gamble on certain things or whatever you were throwing out there. And what I'm gonna say is friends don't let friends parlay this card. What do you think?
it's factual, man. You can't be
Right?
mad about that.
Especially when you're talking about throwing in like, yeah, man. I don't know. I like I said, I'm the gun shy one. Maybe it's a good mix if you throw some props out there, and I'm throwing a little bit of shade at it so we can find this medium ground in this gray area. But I don't know, man. I think if you're parlaying this card, you're pulling the roulette, or so you're playing roulette. You're pretty much trying to cash a ticket at the casino. Man.
We got a big pay-per-view coming up next week. Okay, do not blow your bankroll on this fucking card.
Agreed. Next fight on the card, we have Mario Batista 10-2-0 against Benito Lopez 10-1-0. So this is a bantamweight clash. It's going to be potentially a fight of the night, or at least a performance of the night for sure. Now we look at it, we know that Mario Batista is like just flash, explosive, has a finish game on the ground, has really fun striking to watch on the feet, and is a darling right now. I think he's sitting at minus 245 favorite to a guy that if he had been more active, this wouldn't be as wide a line. In Benito Lopez, who has some power in his hands, who right now is a dog that will fight for your money, but he has been out for a while. So him being out for a certain period of time, that's going to be obviously the thing that everybody's sort of weary about. That's why the line is a little bit wider than it's supposed to be. I already had a little bit of hesitation because the first thing I heard about this card was everybody was talking about Mario Batista. So I think that, when you have everybody pouring in on one guy, that's been blowing up a lot lately. And it's a little bit of a stay off. This is going to be a fun one to watch. I think that Batista is likely deciding this. I think he's going to land a more significant volume, to be honest. But I just think that there'll be moments where he may get caught. And I just want to sort of stay off of it altogether. He could finish him in almost any different avenue. Could be on the feet, could be by decision, could be on the ground by submission. But really, he also could get caught, and it could be a guy that we're like so high on, and then by Monday we're like shit. So I'm just gonna stick to my guns, and I'm sticking to the stay off. But I'm still betting on Chase Sherman. Anyways, I'll pass that off to you. Let's go.
Yeah, Joe, to be honest, I actually like the under 2.5 in this fight, sitting at plus 110. I think that there's value on the fact that this fight is going to go to decision. I think both these guys are going to come out swinging. I think Benito Lopez is going to try and prove a point. As you say, he's had a long layoff, became a real estate agent. I saw a funny comment on the Die Hard MMA podcast where somebody said that real estate agents are 0-1 in the UFC. A little jab at our boy Al there. So yeah, I like violence. I think plus 110 is a fair price on the fact that they're probably gonna come out there swinging, man.
That'll be a podcast play, I think. Okay, next fight on the card we have Jinyu Fry against Polyana Viana. Fry coming in at 11-7-0 against Viana, 12-5-0. I mean, both those records. I don't want to say it, but if it was male MMA, I don't know, would they be on the card? Right. Okay. So what we got to look at here is we have Jinyu Fry, who's pretty much who everybody's sort of looking to win this fight at minus 120. And a lot of people are talking about her as the winner of this fight because on the feet, she is going to have a little bit more sound stand up and be able to potentially win by having a little more top heavy ground game and probably winning a decision. Some control time on the cage mixed with a little bit of striking. I think that she probably wins the decision. But Polyana Viana has like arm bars and they call her the armbar queen and she has submissions. And then if you look at that, they're already on that, right? So her by submission is just plus 200. You don't really want to see it's probably not going to have it to happen too much. And if you look at it, like as far as her being able to submit Jinyu Fry, so you probably don't want to touch that. Look at the first round though, plus 700, Polyana Viana by submission. If you don't want to touch this fight at all, I get it. If you're looking for a prop to sort of sprinkle that and take a look at, I think why not with this one? Throw some Tim Hortons at it. Or more, depending on what your bankroll is. But I think it's a little sprinkle, Polyana Viana, first round submission, plus 700, dry armbar.
Yeah, honestly, man, I'll agree with you on this one. I don't really have high value on either one of these women. I think Jinyu Fry could either ride this out to a greasy decision. But Polyana Vienna is going to be very comfortable off her back. And there's a good chance that it's going to end up there. So I take the plus 700 and touch this fight with nothing else other than a greasy split decision prop or something. But this fight to me is literally pulling a slot machine. Like this is the definition of degenerate gambling. So
yeah. And like I said, it's more just looking at how many armbars she had, how many first round submissions she has. If you want to sprinkle it because it's more of a degenerate prop, do it up. If not,
dude, I said that's value, man. We always bring it back to the same thing, man. This is my favorite example because I said Andre Fili versus Joanne Tercin Brito. You know, all I knew this guy if he was going to win first round KO, right? That's not really degenerate. That's playing somebody's win. Like that's their win condition. If she's going to win, it's probably going to be by sub in the first round. Fuck it, plus 700, man. For that's value.
5 times that probably hits twice for her,
that's
right?
It. So. But if you're playing the money line or anything on this, man, you're crazy. Like, there's no way you have a confident angle either way.
No,
like,
not a chance. Next fight on the card, Johnny Munoz Jr. coming in at 11-2-0 against Ludovic Shalinian, 9-2-1. This is actually going to be potentially a fun fight to watch. I think that on the feet, Munoz Jr. is going to present exactly what Shalinian wants. He's going to provide openings and try to be a little bit aggressive, but he doesn't show fight. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm overreading it, but he doesn't seem to have full fight IQ at moments. Maybe it's because he's not as confident in his stand-up, but his stand-up game, I think that Shalinian will just tag him up on the feet. And then for me, if it gets to the ground, we know that Munoz Jr. is a huge submission threat, but I just think that he is, and I don't see it enough really. And is it because he can't get it there at this level, or is it because he just chooses not to with poor fight IQ? I'm not quite sure. I could fade him in this fight, and then he comes out and submits him in the first round. I could be on Munoz Jr. and then watch Shalinian just pick him apart for 3 rounds, and potentially get him out late. I don't know, man. It's a hard take on this one. I once again, this is another maybe stay off for me. We got Shalinian coming in at plus 165 dog. I see value there against the minus 200 favorites in Munoz Jr. Maybe I'm more fading him too hard. I don't know, but he does have a little bit more win conditions. He could win the decision, could win the submission. But really, I'm just going to slide away from this one. What's your take on this?
Yeah, honestly, man, this is one of these fights where it's just super greasy. We haven't seen Shalinian in a while. His loss in the UFC comes to Jack Shore, which is nothing to be upset about, right? Jack Shore is one of the bigger up-and-coming guys right now. So we don't really know what we've seen from him. His regional scene footage is far from great. Like, the guy is kind of mediocre at everything he does, but it's kind of made his way up through the ranks. With Munoz, like, as you said, like, the guy hasn't really been able to show what he showed on the regional scene in the UFC. So that makes it really dicey to lay this sort of price tag. I would like to think he gets it down and gets a sub, but I agree with you, man. I wouldn't touch this fight. Like, it's kind of a variable fight. Like, and I think that's kind of like a show me spot, right? Like, is Shalinian really as bad as everybody's talking shit about? Like, does he really deserve to have this plus 200 tag against his name? And is Munoz really the good grappler, or are we going to see kind of what we saw with the other Munoz, where it's like he's just going to lay on top of him, and the grappling doesn't really show high level at this level of the sport? So,
and yeah, just to correct anybody's feelings, when I say Shalinian, pick him apart on the feet, I'm not suggesting that he's absolutely, leaps and bounds amazing. It's just sort of in contrast to, and
Munoz isn't a good striker, man. Munoz's game plan is going to be the ground. So, yeah, Shalinian is a far better striker. It's not about point, man.
Well, it's not even really a play. It's just sort of, it could go one way or the other. I just think that Munoz's acumen is way, way higher. It just, will he do it?
The point is,
thing,
Justin Jacoby should have won that fight, even though I had a winning ticket. And if they fucked you on this one, they may fuck you on this one.
Yeah, I'm staying away from this one anyways. We will move on to another one that's will likely be a stay off for me, funnily enough. We have Jake Hadley coming in at 8-1-0 against Carlos Candelario at 8-2-0. Hadley coming off a loss. We have Candelario coming off 2 losses. Here's my thing. We have Hadley now sitting at minus 275. We have Hadley, who is this monster on a regional scene, who comes in with all this, at least talk, because Conor McGregor talk. Everybody was saying he's a little bit of a head case. When you're younger and emotional, that's a scary thing. Teams that are young and emotional in hockey, low leads. And Jake Hadley comes in against, it was Nascimento. I honestly, I didn't even take this one because I'm staying away from it. I have a take on it because I think Hadley, this is a show me spot still. He's not shown us anything at the UFC level yet. He needs to show us something at the UFC level and to warrant a minus 275 favorite against Carlos Candelario, who, at this level has shown maybe just as much as Hadley has. I'm just sort of going to stay away from this one altogether. Hadley could likely be the side and backpack Candelario and eventually submit him late in the fight or TKO him late in the fight. If he does play his game to his strength and gets on his back and backpacks him and gets control and able to do what he wants to do, then Hadley could be the guy. But I'm staying away from situations like this. And I know I'm the stay away guy this week. But this one, immediately looked down the card. This was when I'm staying off. Hadley's a guy. He's got to show me a whole bunch. I need to see a sample size at the UFC level before I even go anywhere near his fights. What's your take on this one? Candelario brings a threat on the feet. Not too bad on the ground as well. What's your take on this one?
I got no real play on this one, man. Like for me, it's just dog or pass in the sense that like I can't bet
I get it.
Headley at that price tag, like especially because like if this fight stays standing, it's not gonna look good for him. Like Candelario is gonna be able to piece him up. Far better striking. Like you go back to that Contender Series fight with Victor Altamirano versus Candelario. It was a very good striking match back and forth, man. And Jake Hadley isn't going to be able to stand toe-to-toe with him. His grappling is on point, and he should be able to ground him. But a lot of people comparing this to the Tyra fight, and I think Tyra's a much better grappler than Jake is, to be honest.
Yeah.
So
I agree. Now that we see that, I agree fully, 100%.
Yeah, like I don't really understand the comparisons here. People are like, oh, like this guy is so good in Cage Warriors and blah, blah, blah. But I'm like with Tyra, like his grappling is like very jiu-jitsu oriented, where with Jake it seems more wrestling oriented. And with Candelario, like he was able to kind of get up in that fight, didn't get submitted, looked very defensive. And for me, it's if Jake has to deal with that much pressure of a fighter who we know as cardio getting up off his feet, it's how long till we see like what we saw against
I could see him break.
Yeah, like if you draw comparisons between like Beniro, Darnush, and Gamera, like after Gamera couldn't get those takedowns anymore, Dariush was. Am I thinking of the right fighter? Yeah, it was Dariush, right?
Yep.
Yeah, like the striking just became the winning factor in that fight. So that's the thing. Like we don't really know where his cardio holds up. So, yeah, for me, it's dog or pass, but there'll be no play here for sure.
Yeah, and even with Hadley on the regional scene, even when his stand-up has looked good or he's had big moments on the feet, it's usually because of the threat of the takedown. And people are thinking about that, and it sets up and makes him look better on the feet than he is. And I know it's a little bit of a fade of him. His ground game is higher level, but I just think that he's not been able to implement it at this level. Maybe it's just jiu-jitsu tournaments. Maybe he can't implement it in an MMA setting at this level. We'll find out. But I'm not going anywhere near it. I think Candelario is definitely alive, and I get the dog play on it, but I'm even gun shy on that. So we will move forward, but I'm still betting on Chase Sherman. All right. That is going to be the title of the podcast. Next fight that we will look at, we're almost there. We have Ramona Pascual against Tamiris Vidal. We have Ramona Pascual coming in at 6-4-0 against Vidal, who's 6-1-0. People were just going on about the tape this week about Vidal, and I watched one fight, and I didn't want to watch anymore. It's just not okay. It's not okay. It's not okay at all. And the only thing in this fight that I see, because Pascual is not really shown level at the UFC level at all either, is it, I said this online as well too, she's got grit. She's been in fights where she's taking shots, but she's still coming forward and she's still fighting, and she has, that will in that fight. And she now is the dog. I mean, so I wouldn't hate somebody who wants to try to touch that because you can't find anything on the card. But at the same time, this is the first fight of the night, very low level MMA. And I'm just going to say, I'm going to stay off of this one, but I do get some of the love coming in on the dog, Ramona, just from the fact that she actually has been gritty in there. She has shown that she wants to get in there and fight, even though the level might not be there as far as technique. But either way, I think I'm digging for something, and I'm just going to stay off this one. And, I'm sort of cheering for Ramona in this one. I think I'd like to see her win at this level. She has been in some bangers, and it would be good to see her come out with the dub. But once again, it's a stay off, and hopefully we find a couple angles for the podcast. So what's your take on this?
Yeah, I don't know. This is a tough one, right? Because like I think Roman is better in most aspects of this fight. I just think that with the other girl being the favorite here, that people are worried about the submission threats and everything. And I get it, but I would just stay away. I don't think it's. I think there's a couple other spots on this card where you can probably place your money on, and honestly, it's people are gonna shit on it like people shit on most podcasters for talking bad about women's MMA. But if you want to bet this fight, just bet the over. Like it's more than likely gonna go 15 minutes.
All right, so let's find some angles right now, and we'll just quickly, we don't have to break down each fight again, but just quickly, each card can we find, or each fight can we find a spot that we want to agree that's either your play, my play, or a podcast play. Marina Rodriguez, Amanda Lemos. What say you?
I like the under 4.5.
Under 4.5, and what's that sitting at currently?
Minus 135.
First podcast play. Next, Neil Magny, Daniel Rodriguez. I was on both sides of it. You can make it a play for yourself if you want. What's your take?
I just honestly like fight goes to decision at minus 210.
All right, but we'll lean away from that one. But I do like that as a potential. Like that's even a good. I think it goes decision quite a bit, and that even could be a parlayable thing for some people. But friends don't let friends parlay on this card. Next fight, this is going to be just me play. Third rounder decision, Chase Sherman plus 240. Just throwing some darts at the wall or shit at the wall and hoping some of it sticks. So everybody fade me in that or follow me in it. I'll either look like a genius later or not. I just think that there is a disparity. I think that this is Parisian's last fight in the UFC, and Sherman will now become the gatekeeper. Next fight, probably the strongest play for both of us. I like Nate Maness as the dog. So Nate Maness to beat Tagir Limbekov, maybe send him back so he can carry some water up the mountain for the boys so they can wrestle some bears in Dagestan. He can be the water boy. That should be his new nickname. But yeah, I'm going to go with the dog right now. He's sitting at minus 150. I like him even, at KO or decision. And what was that currently sitting at?
1 sec. He's sitting at plus 185. You said minus 150. Yeah, naming us by KO or decision plus 215.
Yeah, Manus by KO or decision, I think, is the play plus 215. Plus him at, just dog money right now is sitting at what do you say, plus 185?
Yeah.
Yeah, Nate Manus is a play, man. Let's all fade the accountant waterboy of the family, and call it a day. If you were to go down the card more, what else do we have here?
I'll take Madsen at plus 185 as well.
What's the over?
The over right now is sitting at. Oh, my thing's taking a second to load. Over 2.5 minus 210. I think it's parlayable, and I think it's more advisable to take that over than the minus 215 on Grant Dawson.
Fair enough. So if you're on the Grant Dawson side of things, go that route on the over. But you are definitely on the Madsen side, and then we may make it a podcast play depending on how many shake out, and or it'll be your play because I'm sort of with you on it, but I'm a little bit gun shy, and hopefully by weigh-ins we'll be able to really have some finite picks. Next, Derek Minner, Shay Lan, we got no play there. Miranda Maverick, Shanna Young, no play there.
No.
Bautista Lopez, enjoy it, but the violence under 2.5 is what?
Plus 110.
And we'll make that a podcast play as well too. Jinyu Fry, Pollyanna Viana. I don't know if I'll make it a podcast play or maybe it's up to you, or we can make it just like a prop fun degen play. But the submission round 1 plus 700, I think if we label it the degen play, I think that might be the one to look at, and or win condition play, as you were saying. Maybe look at it from that angle. Yeah. Munoz Jr., Shalinian, let's see how it plays out. Hadley, I mean, you can be for him or against him, but it's real wide. I don't hate the Candelario play. Is that going to be a play for you? Candelario is a dog?
No, it's just a straight dog pass, but I don't think my money will make it that far.
Okay, so I think really there's not too many plays this week, which I'm actually okay with, and we'll probably end up making all of them just podcast plays. But I'm okay with that. I think we've done what we needed to do, and kept it a little bit safe. Maybe me being such a stay off is going to be some of the play from now on. That way we'll find some real sharper angles. Instead of me throwing up some craziness like Chase Sherman. Anyways, so we if you look behind me right here, this is my boy Helman Alakozai. You got to check him out. November 12th, he's going to be fighting in Brampton at the CAA Center. Get your tickets at Ticketmaster. The guy is a monster, right? He hits like a fucking truck, and he throws so fast. And the way that he measures it is it's crazy how he can measure actually that power and that speed and just it's controlled chaos in the ring, man. And it's just exciting to actually see him come back from what he's come back from. Car accident in 2021, rehabs himself. He didn't even know if he was going to be able to walk properly or exactly what was going to go on after that car wreck. And for him to be able to step back in the ring, do what he's going to do, he's going to smash this man, and then move on to bigger and better things. So excited to see that Hellman is stepping back in the ring, and we will likely be talking to him on the podcast in the next couple of weeks. So Hellman, let's get it done. Also on top of that too, there is Elias Teodoro shirts. Aaron Jeffrey is selling on his website for November. It's the mullet with the mustache, and definitely want to check those out as well too. Great cause. Men got to get checked out, got to do what you need to do. If you've hit that age and your health isn't quite there and you haven't been to the doctor, time to go. Maybe I should take my own advice. On that note, we like to find angles. We like to break down fights. For Nick Eagle-Eye, I'm Callum McGregor. And what we got here is
failure to communicate.
I hear the train a-coming. It's rolling around the bend. And I ain't seen the sunshine. I don't know when. I'm stuck in Folsom Prison, and time keeps dragging on. But that train keeps a-rolling on down to San Antonio. On down to San Antonio. When I was just a baby, my mama told me, son, always be a good boy. Don't ever play with guns. I hear the train a-coming.